Nanofog printers arrived the same year the cherry trees stopped blooming in the city parks. People blamed climate drift for the blossom's absence, but I suspected the printers had stolen spring along with everything else they fed on. An easy superstition, the experts said. Nanofog converts memories to matter. It doesn't touch weather. Still, every time the gauzy silver vapor poured from the printer hoods, I imagined petals scattering backward into unblossomed buds, into branch, into seed, into forgetting. I tried to keep that thought from Alias. My 7-year-old already had enough to haunt him. The cough that tore at his marrow, the blood readings that told doctors his immune map was unreadable by ordinary gene therapy. When the specialists finally admitted there was a cure, one synthesized ampoule, pressurized in a diamond lattice, cost more than the city's annual transit budget. I heard the price and laughed until I nearly broke. Then I remembered the public Maker Commons downtown and how their nanofog printer waited for anyone desperate enough to trade the past for the tangible. I was never a gambler, never a revolutionary, just a children's librarian who cataloged stories and, in the quiet hours, lived inside them. But stories are built of memories too. I had plenty. I only hoped they would be adequate fuel. Rules for nanofog printing were pinned to the Commons door like some medieval proclamation. 1. One memory unit of vivid, personally experienced recollection yields 1 gram of replicated mass. 2. Neutral or secondhand memories are rejected. 3. Memories extracted by the scanner are unrecoverable. 4. Don't overprint. Identity evaporation begins around 40% total memory depletion. At 70%, the subject is legally dead. Below the rules, someone had scrawled in pink marker, "Love is more expensive than gold." I signed the waiver with a stylus that trembled in my grip. The attendant, a graduate student named Shu, guided me to the intake booth. "Describe the object you need." "A vial of Biocarthex A," I said. 2 milliliters. He whistled. "That's 133 grams, including the smart shell and shipping canister. Roughly 133 full memory units. How many does a normal person have? Depends on neurology, but the international average is 200. He bit his lip. "We recommend spreading extraction across a network, friends, family, so no single donor crosses the burnout line." "I'll be the only donor," I said. "Elias's father is gone, and I won't trade strangers' lives for my sons. Take from me." Shu studied my form. 34 years old, frame too thin from hospital coffee and long corridor pacing. At last he nodded. "It can be done in stages. Are you certain?" Certain is a word that belongs to people with options. Begin. First extraction. The memory of my 10th birthday, when Dad taught me to ride a bicycle down a gravel road that smelled of lilacs and dust. I surrendered it, and the machine drank. A silver-gray tendril of vapor curled into the printer's crucible, and a moment later it expelled 14 translucent grams of chemglass. The outer sheath of the ampoule. I still knew I had once owned a bicycle, but the bright slice of wind, the taste of lilac, the crash, and Dad's laugh, all gone. In their place remained a polite, factual footnote. On May 3rd of whatever year I learned to ride, no color, no heat. 14 grams down, 119 to go. I went home and found the absence lodged under my skull like a missing tooth. Elias lay propped on pillows, reading aloud from his favorite picture book about dragons that hoard library cards instead of gold. His voice rasped, yet he insisted on finishing before sleep. Watching him, I wondered which of my memories mattered most to the woman he believed me to be. Would losing them, one by one, unmother me? Or did motherhood reside somewhere deeper than recollection? An instinct that could survive catastrophic erosion. I told myself, I'll stop at the warning threshold. I'll stay above 60% die. I put the limit in my phone alarms. I wrote it in lipstick on the bathroom mirror. But living quotas shimmer like mirages when somebody you love is dying on a rented ventilator. Second extraction. My college graduation. The mortarboard sailing over a crowd. Mom crying into a crumpled program. 12 grams of biopolymer created the ampule's osmotic diaphragm. Third, the moment I stepped onto the library's marble floor for my first job. 11 grams of nanochannels fabricated inside the vial. After each session, Shu offered me a lollipop, as if I were a blood donor. I tasted the candy, but couldn't remember a single book I'd shelved during my first weeks at work. I compensated by checking spreadsheets, mapping what I could still recall. Facts remained. Flesh was vanishing. I visited Elias between shifts. He asked why I looked tired, why I stared at hallways like someone rearranged them overnight. I joked about too much coffee. He nodded gravely, adult empathy in a child's bones. The fifth extraction took what hurt most, my wedding day. Gabriel's crooked grin when he forgot the vows, the dance under paper lanterns, the sensation of satin laces at my waist. 30 grams, highest yield so far. The printer built the core molecular spool that would house the living enzymes of Biocarthax A. I walked out into a drizzle and realized I could not picture my late husband's face. I knew his name and cause of death: car crash on the I-270 flyover, but the geography of his cheekbones, the spark of his eyes, gone. I hurried to the hospital and sat beside Elias, and for a horrifying moment Gabriel's absence tried to erase my son too, each genetic echo threatening to fade. I squeezed Elias's palm until my own circulation tingled back. No, Elias was still here, translucent skin and all. He pointed at my ring finger. Mom, you're twisting your ring like math class fidgets. I looked down. Platinum band, a tiny sunstone. Gabriel had chosen it because it gleamed orange whenever I read under the lamp. I couldn't remember the proposal, only this metal circle and a notion of orange. My throat tightened. Just thinking of stories, I said. Good endings are tricky. Elias laughed, a cough-zone sound. Make ours a good one. Halfway. 66.7 grams printed. The whiteboard above my desk displayed 2 columns. Have and lost. Under lost, the list had grown savage. First kiss, grandfather's funeral, the smell of cinnamon tea on winter mornings. I still recalled Elias's birth. I swore not to touch that. Not unless I absolutely must. When identity wavering began, it was subtle. I would reach for sugar and find salt. Miscount change, forget how old I was. But the brain is a resilient liar. It patched gaps with guesswork. Not until I found myself at the grocery freezer staring at peas, no idea what apartment I lived in, did panic crash through. I rang Shu from the parking lot. Tell me the depletion percentage again, he typed. You're at 37%, well within safe. It doesn't feel safe. Memories have weight distribution. You've given up cornerstone events. Structurally, that's destabilizing. But neuroplasticity can re-anchor you, take new experiences, stamp fresh neurons. I don't have time for sightseeing, I muttered. Then at least document. Journal like mad. External memory keeps ego coherent. I wrote. I filled notebooks with bullet lists. Elias likes grape gummies, hates orange. Our apartment door code is 1729. The kettle whistles after 4 minutes. I left pages taped around rooms like breadcrumbs for future me. We needed 40 more grams. The printer's simulations warned enzyme stability required completion within 2 weeks, or earlier parts would degrade. 2 weeks to pillage my own soul. I considered black market memory vials, war vets, thrill seekers, dream addicts, sold recollections in alley auctions. Illegal, but rampant. One night I followed rumors to the River District. Under phosphor street lamps I watched a teenage girl trade her childhood for cash, her posture slackening as the extractor hummed. I pictured Elias, waking healed but motherless, cared for by a stranger because I had slipped into the same stupor. I ran. If I must, I would pay with the only treasure I had left, the archives of Elias himself. The prospect sickened me more than any blankness so far. Memories of his first laugh, his first word. Bubble. The time he clapped when thunder rattled windows because he thought the sky was applauding. It was these moments that kept me up right before the dawn medication rounds. Sacrificing them felt like killing him in my mind, even as I fought to save his body. I delayed, scavenged minor episodes. A high school argument about Nietzsche, a disastrous haircut, the taste of wedding cake fondant. Small fuels built fractional milligrams, but entropy nipped at the earlier print pieces. The countdown read 9 days. On the 8th night I dreamed of a field of unfurling pages, each page blank until touched. Then words appeared, then curled into smoke. I woke sweating. The hospital monitor lights twinkled like low stars. Elias slept under a thermal blanket patterned with cartoon rockets. I reached to brush his hair and realized in horror I couldn't call forth the day those curls first appeared. It hadn't been extracted. I would remember deleting it. Instead, the memory had faded collateral, caught in the gravity well of other losses. Identity evaporation, stage 1, collateral decay. At 48 hours before the process might accelerate irreversibly. Even if I stopped printing, I whispered, "Forgive me, Sprout." Then I left for the Commons. Shu met me at the door, red-eyed, holding a mug of instant noodles. "I'm off shift, but the terminal flagged your escalation. You're close to the brink." "We finished tonight." He opened his mouth, closed it. "All right, the final piece, glycosealant, 11 grams. Which memory ratio? 11 units. Could be one large or multiple moderate." I knew the math. I took the adapter helm, pressed it to my temple. Inside my skull lay a garden of memories like glass roses. I could pluck buds small, inconsequential, or seize the rose that towered above them all. The first moment Elias was placed on my chest, squalling, skin slick and astonishingly warm. The rose pulsed. 11 units exactly. I cried before I even chose, because choice itself was desecration. Gabriel's ring pressed into my palm. I slipped it off, set it on the console. My wedding had vanished, but the ring was linked to whatever version of me once loved and was loved. If I gave up Ilyas's birth, I feared losing the instinct that tied me to him. But the printer required fuel. "Can you split a memory?" I asked. "Shu, take the edges, leave the core." "Not safely. Extraction algorithms carve whole qualia networks. Fragmenting increases entropy." I turned the ring, watched coppery lamplight scatter. Another memory offered itself. The moment I first realized I was pregnant, standing in a pharmacy bathroom. +sign electric. It burned 9 units. Not enough. I could couple it with something lesser. Last year's holiday morning maybe, but holiday scents were already dim. What is a mother made of? I had to believe it was more than the reel of stored scenes. Maybe love was muscle memory. I steadied my breath. "Take the birth memory," I said. Shu hesitated. "You're sure?" "No." I pressed start. A warm pull, like silk unraveling through my ears. Tears leaked, but I didn't know why. The console chimed. Transfer complete. 11 grams of glycosealant precipitated in the fog, sealing the vial. The ampoule glowed oceanic blue. Done. Shu capped it inside a sterile casket. Deliver within 12 hours. The enzymes will ask for his DNA signature to unlock. I lifted the casket. "Thank you." Words seemed tinny, borrowed. "Rosa," he said. My name, yes. Rosa. Was that right? Alarms flickered in my brain. I grasped at letters like slippery fish. ROSA. You need follow-up NeuroGuard, the clinic downstairs. No time, I muttered, already turning. Steps felt alien, as if someone else mapped gravity for me. I reached the hospital at dawn when shift nurses changed. Walking the corridor, I studied plastic signs to recall directions. Pediatric ICU, room 16. Inside, machines beeped soft. My son. Yes. Lay still, eyes closed, his lips cracked but serene. I approached. He woke at the sound of the casket latches. Mom? His voice oriented me like a compass to magnetic north. I smiled, though facial muscles fought fog. I brought you dragon fuel, I said, phrase improvised. You've got to help me open it, okay? Protocol required his biometric imprint. I guided his tiny thumb onto the oval pad. It lit green. The ampoule's shell unfurled petals, releasing a single syringe and an auto patch. Nurses rushed in at my buzz, physicians trailing electronic authorizations. They hesitated only a heartbeat before recognizing the vial's authenticity. Within minutes, the medicine coursed into Elias's subcutaneous port. Monitors recalibrated. Graphs spiked, then settled into steady rhythms I hadn't seen in months. Oxygen saturation climbed. Color returned to his cheeks like watercolor blooming on wet paper. I exhaled, a breath 12 hours long. "Will I get better?" Elias asked. "Yes," I answered, certain though memoryless of proof. "Yes." He fluttered eyelids. "Tell me a story." "A story." I sat, but images skittered. Birth scene gone. Bicycle rides gone. Even the library stacks dimmed beyond reach. But a different channel opened. Present tense. I touched his hand and described what I saw. Machines humming like dragon purrs. Dawn painting walls gold. Doctors wearing armor of stethoscopes. He listened, smiling. Outside, physicians argued about reports and insurance breakthroughs. Inside room 16, a mother sculpted a brand new memory with her boy. Whether it would last beyond the hour, I could not know, but for now it existed, bright and shared. Days blurred. Elias improved faster than trials predicted. He left ICU, graduated to general ward, then outpatient. Each milestone was recorded on my phone because I dared not trust cognition alone. I set hourly reminders to hydrate, to rest, to read my own cheat sheets. Yet something surprising occurred. New memories stuck. They adhered in fresh neural soil, unsalted by extraction scars. I remembered the taste of cafeteria apple pie we celebrated with. The joke Elias told about a banana who went to space. Identity evaporation halted just above the fatal line, clinicians said. I was a person missing archive footage but growing forward. One afternoon, Elias wandered into the living room carrying a photo album I hadn't opened since Gabriel's funeral. He settled beside me on the couch. "Show me baby pictures," he demanded. My pulse stuttered. Baby pictures corresponded to erased terrain. I flipped pages, saw myself in maternity gown, saw me holding a newborn swaddled in star print fabric. Rationally, I recognized myself. Emotionally, I watched a stranger. Elias pointed and asked, "What was I like?" I breathed around the hollowness. Tiny, loud. The moment they gave you to me, I felt like the universe snapped into focus. Speech emerged not from memory, but faith. "Tell me about the first time I smiled." I hesitated, chose honesty. "I can't remember the details." "That's okay," he said, snuggling. "Make it up." So I did. I invented a smile that blasted hospital lights brighter, that made nurses dance, that taught clocks to tick in saxophone rhythm. Elias giggled. As I spoke, imagination fused with the photo's evidence until a synthetic memory settled among the new ones. A patchwork, but mine. More. A month later, the city's cherry trees bloomed for the first time in years, a coincidence liable to magical thinking. Elias and I walked beneath the canopy, petals brushing our shoulders. He chased loose blossoms. I gathered one in my palm, studied pink veining like a roadmap to somewhere distant. "Mom, race you to the bridge," he called. I followed, legs awkward at first, then sure. As we ran, I let float what I had lost. Wedding music. Lilac, wind-like petals into the river. In their absence rose present laughter, sneaker slap on pavement, a future unfurling. On the bridge's crest, Elias grabbed the rail, breathing hard but healthy. "I win," he announced. "You do," I agreed. He peeked up. "Are you happy?" I searched myself. Happiness, yes, though textured with grief. "I'm something even better," I said. "I'm here." Elias leaned against my side. "Tell me a story about tomorrow." After I did, I told him how tomorrow we'd take a train to the sea, build driftwood forts, maybe adopt a dog with mismatched eyes. He corrected details, adding robot kites and peanut butter galaxies. Our words wove into possibility. Behind us, the city thrummed. Traffic, vendors, faint hiss of nanofog printers at distant labs creating dishes, spare parts, miracles. Somewhere, someone else weighed a memory against a need. I wished them courage and a landing place. Elias tugged my hand. Ready? I nodded. Forward. We walked. With each step the bridge planks remembered our footfalls, though I might never recall the boards. And if one day memory ebbed again, I hoped the feeling of his warm fingers in mine would remain, not as image or date, but as the very shape of motion, carved into bone, a story without a past carried onward all the same.